In a previous video, we looked at how mass shootings are affected by gun laws, but as disturbing as mass shootings are, most gun-related deaths are due to other incidents. In this video, we will try to determine if more restrictive gun laws will prevent more suicides from occurring. So first things first, if you or someone you know is contemplating suicide, please stop watching this video and seek help immediately. There are many resources available. Do gun laws have any real effect on suicides? Well, yes, and no, and well, kind of. This dataset actually tells a fascinating story, so let's go take a look at it. This video follows up from the previous one on mass shootings. In that video, we found that stricter gun laws do not affect the number of mass shootings, but they do make mass shootings less lethal on average. The data we'll look at today is on gun suicides. It comes from the same source, the Gun Violence Archive, and it spans from 2017 to 2019. Now, statewide total suicide rates comes from the CDC, and I couldn't find CDC data specifically for Washington, D.C., so we'll just be looking at the 50 states in this video. So in case you didn't watch the previous video, we attempt to model gun violence across the U.S. using a state's gun law score as a predictor. This is a simple index that I came up with from 0 to 6, and the index is tabulated as follows. So a state gains 1 point on our system for each of the following. 1 is a permit required. 2 is registration required. 3 is a license required. 4 are assault weapons restricted. 5 are magazine sizes limited. And 6 are background checks required for private sales. Unlike the last video, we will not use a zero-inflated model. Last time there were 9 states with 0 mass shootings, and those zeros had to be accounted for in the model. This time, sadly, every state had suicides caused by firearms. We'll make use of 3 different generalized linear models in this work. First, the Poisson for counts data, the negative binomial for over-dispersed counts data, and lastly, the logistic regression for the fraction of gun-related suicides when compared to all suicides. First, we'll look at murder-suicide, which is where a shooter first injures or kills others before taking his or her own life. This data overlaps with the mass shootings. Also, the 2017 Las Vegas massacre was removed from this dataset as it was an extreme outlier in terms of the number of people killed. So for this data, we will predict the number killed based on our gun law score and the log of the population using the negative binomial model. And we find that both of these predictors are strongly significant. The number of people killed in murder-suicides increases by about 20 people for every million people in the state. And this is dampened by about 16.5% for every point on our gun law score. So in total, that's a 64% decrease in the number of deaths on average if all of the gun laws are implemented. It's strongly significant. And this coincides with what we found last time, that if someone wishes to cause harm, stricter gun laws will reduce the lethality of an attack. For example, in Texas, there were 472 murder-suicide deaths between 2017 and 2019. Our model predicted 510 deaths plus or minus 50. If Texas increased its gun laws to California levels, then there would only be an estimated 190 deaths, plus or minus 26. For our next model, we can focus on those who wish to harm only themselves. That is, we're going to look at suicides where nobody else was injured or killed. The same negative binomial model is valid, and a similar conclusion is reached. For every additional gun law point, the number of gun-based suicides decreases by about 10% plus or minus 5 on average. So gun law strictness is a strong predictor of gun-based suicides. But that significance vanishes once you account for the total number of suicides in a state. And I tried 2 different models, being both the negative binomial and the logistic regression, taking total suicides into account. And neither showed any significance for the gun law score. So this seems to indicate that if guns are readily available, they will be used for suicide. If they are not readily available, some other method will be used. But we have one more model to fit, and this is where it gets really fascinating. I decided to try to predict total suicides, that's gun-based and everything else, via our Gunlaw score. I used a Poisson regression because the data wasn't over-dispersed as in the other cases. What I found was that stricter gun laws significantly decrease total suicides in a state. That is, suicides decrease by about 5 to 10% for every gun law point. But gun-based suicides only account for 2 to 3% of the total suicides. So what's happening here? Well, I double-checked using two different approaches, a two-sample t-test and the non-parametric version, the Wilcoxon rank sum test. So there are 30 states with less than 1 point in our gun law score with an average of 551 suicides per million people. There are 20 states with a score of 1 or higher on our gun score, and the average is 431 suicides per million. And this is a strongly significant drop, but over 95% of these suicides have nothing directly to do with guns, so what's happening here? So here's what I think's happening. Permissive gun laws are correlated with an increase in the state suicide rate. That's what we see from the data. Since guns are only directly responsible for a small number of suicides, there is likely another variable that's hidden and influencing both total suicides and gun laws. My guess is that states with permissive gun laws are also states with fewer government support programs. That is, they're those that adhere to a more libertarian philosophy to government. And perhaps these states will not have the same number of social programs to assist those who may be struggling. Now, is that truly the hidden variable driving down gun laws and driving up the suicide rate? Well, to figure that out, we're going to have to look at more data and find out in a future video. So thanks for watching and stay tuned for more.